Hello, this is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. You know, some people would say that a trip to Alaska is a trip of a lifetime. Well, we're going to go. We'll start off at milepost 1 and work our way northward. You'll have to bear with us a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of map work on this travelogue because it's important to know where you're going when you're going into a big, vast country like the North. And so I just think that we'll make it through most of northern British Columbia in this first travelogue. So come on, let's go fill up your gas tank with fuel and take along a spare tire and a few other tools and a map, and let's get on the road. This is a milepost 0 on the Alaska Highway, downtown Dawson Creek, British Columbia. In the background are two Canadian banks, the CIBC and Scotia Bank, that originated in the eastern province of Nova Scotia. Canada has only about a half dozen banks, and all are national banks. There are no private or individually owned banks in the country. Feel free to get a photo of yourself at milepost 0. Thousands do. This nearby sign shows distances in the old miles. The other end of the Alaska Highway at Fairbanks, Alaska, is 1523 miles away, which is about 2,500 kilometers. Whitehorse in the Yukon, where you start to get into the Klondike Gold Rush story, is a little over halfway, which is roughly 918 miles, as it says in the sign here, or about 1,500 kilometers. Best advice you'll get, keep the fuel gauge on the top half. Distances can be far apart, and you want to avoid this kind of thing, a closed gas station. Maybe they've run out of fuel and you have to wait until tomorrow or the next day to get it delivered, which is not really what you want to run into. You don't have to worry about dusty roads. When I first drove the highway years ago, it was a non-stop dust storm and broken windshields from rocks thrown by other vehicles. One of the most popular tourist souvenirs in those days was to buy cans of Alaska highway dust. But that is in the past, except for a few road construction upgrades and a short side road loop or two, which I'll tell you about one I want you to take on, a good idea to take a little later. Everything is paved. It is a wide 2-lane highway with good shoulders. Older bridges like this one have been replaced with new versions. The highway might be long and even a little boring at times. It is easy driving, however, mostly flat with no serious hills whatsoever. We enjoyed a lot of good campfires along the way. And camp stove meals were the order of the day in many cases. You don't want this big boy arriving for dinner. Chances of seeing wildlife along the road is small, but a few lucky travelers do see a bear, moose, deer, coyote, or wolf crossing the highway. A black bear originally was a mountain area bear and can still climb trees. In contrast, the bigger grizzly bear originated on the plains, but was forced to retreat to mountain areas by the onslaught of we humans. See the hump on this bear's back above its front shoulders. That is a muscle that enables the bear to dig for gophers, plant roots, tree bark, ripping it apart for ants and such things. By the way, I took these bear photos with a strong telephoto lens on my camera. This map is a general orientation map, and you'll need a road map if you decide to actually go. The black line is the Alaska Highway, and the green lines are connecting related roads. Now, if you're in a real hurry, people will just go up Highway 97 at the bottom there, make a left turn onto Highway 16. You're in northern British Columbia, and they head for the coast, and they make that connection with Highway 37, the green line going north. It's a nice road. We'll come back that way and show you some things along 37. But anyway, Highway 37 goes north, makes a connection to the Alaska Highway near Whitehorse. And once on the Alaska Highway, people going to Alaska and in a hurry to get there will go that shorter route. Now, in our case, we're going to start right at milepost 1, down at the bottom of the black line, at the beginning of the Alaska Highway. Number 1 is Dawson Creek, BC. And you can get to Dawson Creek different ways. On the bottom of the map there, you can see Highway 97 goes up and over to Dawson Creek. Or over in the middle of Alberta, at the bottom there, Calgary, you can go to Edmonton and then right over to Dawson Creek. But I think the most scenic way is to go to Calgary, which is at the bottom of the map there, and go over west to Banff and Jasper, Lake Louise, and take those national parks northward, and you make a connection in the middle there to Highway 40. And 40, you can work your way up through the national parks to Dawson Creek in BC, which is number 1 on the map. Just on this map, these roads here lead on to number 1, which is Dawson Creek, the beginning of the Alaska Highway. And basically, we're going to go up the black line, the Alaska Highway. We go right all the way to the end at Fairbanks, Alaska. And then people make a triangle down to Anchorage, back over this way, back to the highway, back down the highway, and then they make the connection at Whitehorse here and continue south on Highway 37, which is a very nice scenic kind of road. And then from there, they get down around the Prince Rupert area and they make their way back down south into the rest of Canada and back to the US. Now, when you take this road up here, beginning at Dawson Creek, and this is Dawson Creek, we're going to go up to Whitehorse, and then we're going to leave the Alaska Highway and do this important loop road here because it goes up to number 3, the Klondike Gold Rush field area. And it's scenic with a lot of history. And we cross the Yukon River right at Dawson City. And we loop back to the highway and then continue on up to Fairbanks. And like I said, we do the loop. And number 6 here is Denali National Park Reserve, which is the highest mountain in North America. And you often can't see it because of the cloud cover. But continue down to Anchorage, and anytime you get near the coast, it becomes scenic. And then you start your way back to the highway. There's a road that goes down to a port called Valdez, very scenic and worthwhile and not that far. Just speaking of other alternate roads, when you're in Fairbanks, if you want to take the gravel road, it's a long, tedious drive to the Arctic Ocean and dip your feet in the water. And similarly, back here in the Yukon at Dawson City, number 3, if you take this loop road over to the community called Inuvik, an Inuit community, a large one. It's a small city now, and you can dip your feet in the Arctic waters right there as well. But again, let's go back and review. Start at the beginning at the Dawson Creek, which is different than Dawson City, where the gold is at. So Dawson Creek, BC, take the road up to Whitehorse, do the loop over to Dawson City, where the gold was found, loop back to the highway, continue on to Fairbanks, past Denali Park, down to Anchorage, come back. If you want to do a loop down to Valdez, it's scenic, but come back to the highway, come back down, and just south of Whitehorse. Watch for the junction. It's Highway 37, and it's a nice scenic paved road down through the middle part of northern British Columbia and comes out near the coastal community of Prince Rupert. Say, I made maybe a mistake when I said that you could dip your feet in the Arctic Ocean if you take that road up to Prudhoe Bay from Fairbanks. You better check that, because I have also heard just recently that that road is closed off at the Arctic Ocean and you can't make it all the way to the shores of the Arctic Ocean. But you can make it to the shores of the Arctic Ocean on the Canadian route up from Dawson City over to Inuvik and Tuktoyaktuk. Those communities on the Arctic or Ocean, Inuvik and Tuktoyaktuk, they're sizable communities, and the Canadians have built a good, and I think only, all-weather road to the Arctic Ocean from out of Dawson City in the Yukon. And but I can tell you one more story about that haul road from Fairbanks up to Prudhoe Bay. It was built strictly as a haul road to bring in supplies when they were building the pipeline from the north slope there at Prudhoe Bay down south to the coast at Valdez. And there was a lot of men laborers there, of course, and before long the women were coming. And the prostitutes were creating some problem. The men were paying more attention to the women. And so the pipeline company said, you know, this is enough of this. We'll have to stop this. And they put a big locked gate at the entrance to the road out of Fairbanks. And it was a guarded gate. And the big semi-trailers kept hauling in the supplies. What they didn't know for 2 or 3 years later, some of those semi-trailers had been partitioned off inside, beds and curtains and little bedrooms made up in the semi-trailers, and business carried on as usual. The women came in, but the company didn't know it. It just goes to show you that human ingenuity can really figure things out if they want to. But again, check in Fairbanks and with locals there and see if you can even make it to the Arctic Ocean. I understand that you can't get all the way right to the shoreline. We have left milepost 0 at Dawson Creek and have traveled through the northern part of British Columbia. We are now near the Yukon border. One popular stop are the Liard River Hot Springs. Stop for a lunch break or even overnight. Walk the pleasant walking trail walkway through the northern forest. And certainly try to take the time to take a quick dip in the hot springs. There's a small wood bison herd nearby that attracts tourists. These wood bison are distinct from the plains buffalo, and they also reached near extinction at one time. They are closely monitored for diseases of brucellosis and tuberculosis. Those packs of wolves are their greatest natural threat, and bears will kill and eat bison cubs. They can run in spurts up to 55 kilometers per hour, and they live in the range of 20 to 40 years. Their eyesight is poor, but their hearing is very good, and they can smell another animal like a wolf up to 3 kilometers away. In winter, they swing their huge, large heads from side to side to easily push away the snow to find grass to eat below. This is one of the upgraded bridges. This one and others were dismantled from a collapsed large span in Washington State years ago and used for shorter spans across the many rivers along the Alaska Highway. That was the bridge that was blown down by heavy winds in Tacoma, Washington in 1940. And those pieces, a lot of them are still at the bottom of Puget Sound, but some were brought up along the Alaska Highway here. In 1942-43, they crossed 133 rivers and creeks with bridges in the construction of the highway. Here's a few photos and scenes along the Alaska Highway as we traveled along. In the background, you can hear Canada geese. Look at the broad delta caused by flooding in the spring from waters, melting from the snow in those higher elevations. I know your attention span is probably not much better than mine, and I'm good for about 10-15 minutes. So we try to keep these travelogues in that time range. But there's a lot to see up here in the Yukon and the North Country, and we're just going to have to make a few more travelogues. In this one here, we got up as far as roughly the Yukon border, but we've got further to go yet. And so hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and we'll be able to bring you more of these travelogues.